the studio once again, Dr. Mona Kumar, clinical psychologist, here to talk to us about parental burnout during the COVID-19 pandemic. And Dr. Kumar, I think people need to know that parental burnout is something that's very real. So what exactly is parental burnout?
It is very real, and I think it's a great question. I think a good way to start is by defining what burnout is. And essentially, burnout is when you take on more than you can comfortably manage for an extended period of time. You know, we're pretty adaptable. When we run into a short-term stressor, we find a way to figure it out. But when we are asked to overextend for a prolonged period of time, eventually we're going to start to feel worn out and frustrated and ineffective. And essentially, that's what parental burnout is as well, but in the context of our role as parents.
So why are some parents experiencing parental burnout right now?
Yeah. So, you know, parenting is not a solo endeavor. It's a group project. We really rely on a lot of support structures to help us out as parents, whether that's the school or teachers, extracurricular activities, our children's friends. And now with COVID, we've found ourselves not having those support structures in place. So all of a sudden, we're the ones teaching our kids and providing them with entertainment, caring for them around the clock, finding ways to enrich them, stimulate them. And again, that's fine if it's just for a short period of time, but when we're doing that over an extended time frame, and on top of that, managing all the things we normally do, all of our household responsibilities, going to work, that's going to make it more likely that we're going to experience parental burnout.
And of course, with the pandemic, more parents are home, right?
Yes.
Because they're not exactly working in the office, or they haven't been for a while.
Right.
Even though some are being called back to work. What can parents do if they are suffering from parental burnout?
You know, there are a couple things I think that are helpful in that case. First of all, I think we need to start by changing our mindset and really looking at the situation that we're in more as a marathon than a sprint. I think once we do that, rather than approach things by just doing more of what we've always done, we start to think about how to do things differently, which kind of leads into my next point, having to do with adjusting our expectations. I think we need to look at our day and plan it based on the time and resources that we currently have at our disposal, rather than striving to accomplish what we've always been able to do. You know, it reminds me a little bit of when we, you know, for many of us, when we first became parents, you know, all of a sudden you couldn't get as much done in a day as you used to be able to do. Even a simple trip to Target suddenly became not so simple anymore. And so I think there's a real parallel here. And once we're able to accept that our situation really has changed, it allows us to be a little more compassionate with ourselves and approach the situation more realistically.
So what can a parent do to make sure that their kids are still happy and motivated during the summer and active, even though they're not even able to see maybe their teachers and their friends virtually on a regular basis?
Right. So I think what I'd like to say about that is that this is a good time to be a little more flexible. You know, we're experiencing a new set of conditions, and to try to rigidly apply how we've done things in the past is not going to be the most effective approach. So be a little more flexible with yourself and with your kids. That might mean, for example, letting them have a little more screen time. You know, for a lot of our kids, interacting with their friends virtually is the only option they have for being with their peers. So if that means a little more time on their devices, it's worth it. Another way to be more flexible is to be a little less structured with your daily routine. Of course, kids still need some structure, meal time and bedtime, but give them the opportunity to come up with their own ideas for free time. I think a lot of times we our tendency is to give them one thing after another to do. But when you allow them to tap into their own creativity and discover what's fun for them, you find that they often come up with things that are even more enjoyable than what you might have been able to offer.
Okay, Dr. Kumar. So in most places, we know that daycares are still closed. But in the event that daycares should open back up again, what do parents need to think about when considering childcare for their children? Also, maybe even summer camps.
Yeah. I think one of the things we've talked about before is that it starts by gauging your comfort level. So some parents are ready. They're ready to send their kids to camp and to have them spend the days with, camp leaders and other kids. And there are options out there that, where a lot of care is being taken to provide your children with safe conditions, and that might be the option for you. Other parents might want to keep everything, virtual. And there are options for that too. There are a lot of summer camps that are being offered online. And then of course there's a range of alternatives in between these two sort of ends of the spectrum. Maybe you're okay with having a nanny come in, someone who's, just one person coming into your home to help take care of the kids. Or maybe you're ready to have members of your extended family help out. So again, just start with gauging what you feel comfortable with and then finding what fits.
What else can parents do to feel like they have support during this time?
So I think a couple of things to keep in mind. First of all, don't isolate. I know we're being asked to stay away from, to socially distance, but really this is a time to connect all the more so with other parents, virtually, over the phone, whatever is comfortable for you. And talk to them. Talk to the parents of your children's friends. Just, commiserate, get ideas, find out what other people are doing, what's working for them, what isn't working so well for them. You'll find yourself getting good ideas oftentimes, but also being reminded that we're all going through this and that no one is a super mom or super dad, and you don't have to be either.
So get on that Zoom and talk about some things.
Exactly. And finally, what I want to say is that it's also really important to nourish yourself. And that's kind of another way of saying do things that provide you with some self-care. And for some people that might mean doing something relaxing or going for a walk, being out in nature. But for others, it could be engaging in something challenging. The key is that you do something that feels affirming, that helps you connect with more of yourself. Because the more whole you feel, the more you're going to be able to be present with your kids. Essentially, there's no parent without you. So remembering to take care of you is an essential part.
Thank you so much once again, Dr. Kumar, for all your professional and practical advice.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure to be here.
And don't forget to check out elsegundo.org for all the latest and accurate information on COVID-19.